track things at the time. Because, man, there's nothing that will get me riled up faster than a discussion on the internet. But there was somebody going on, and somebody was upset about Laurel Hamilton's books, and had kind of gone, they were standing with the argument that, hey, these books have evolved into nothing but BDSM sex that has nothing to do with plot. And then so one of the counter arguments was how could you possibly have a BDSM sex scene that was actually plot relevant? And I went, huh. And it sort of worked out like that. I mean, it could be done. Plot relevant. There you go, right there. But yeah, but her existence was planned. The specifics didn't get settled until a little later, but her existence was in book 3. It was about where I figured it out. But right over here.
In all the history of every wizard I've ever seen in novel fiction, the ending really wasn't as epic as I had always imagined it. They build characters up to be great, powerful wizards, but in the end they end up doing something really small in the book. Are you going to aim for something a little bit more elaborate?
Okay, great powerful wizards are a staple, but he said his statement is that generally speaking, these big powerful wizards, by the time they get to the end, what they actually do to accomplish in terms of the big finale of the series is fairly small. And am I planning something like that for Dresden? Yes and no, is the answer to that. The problem with most of the wizards that do that is simply they aren't the central character of the series. I mean, Gandalf, not the central character of the series. That was Sam, not Frodo. Frodo was not the central character.
Yeah.
Frodo was a junkie who was along for the ride. Sam was the man. It's similar in classical wizards with characters like Merlin. Arthur's the center of that story for the most part. There have been Merlin stories, and so on. But am I going to go all the way to the end of this to have Dresden be the one who, pushes the button that says, destroy the universe? Yes, no. It's not going to be anywhere near that simple. Hopefully, if I do it right, which I don't know because I've never written a 20-book epic fantasy before. Hopefully, if I do it right, we'll set it up to where if it had been anybody else, it would have ended in disaster. But because it's Dresden, we all get to keep giving along. It's sort of kind of what I try to come out with him. If you're doing your job as a writer, by the time you get to the end of your story, any other individual other than that character who's making things happen, if somebody else had been there, it all would have ended horribly wrong. If you're doing your job right. Hopefully, I'll be able to do the same thing. But like I said, it's big. I've never written a big story like that before. In the blue.
What sort of thing, if you could go back to the first and second novel, would you like to change to help stuff currently, like the sun and the handkerchief? Any particular rules or items?
What things would I go back in the earlier novels to change to help things now? I don't know. I mean, I would probably scrap the first 2 books completely and rewrite from the ground up everything about it, which would probably be a disaster. I've learned that going back and rewriting a novel doesn't work anywhere near as well as you think it should. So at this point, I'm happy to accept the flaws and imperfections from early on because it just means, oh, wait a minute, now I have a good direction to go keep things moving the way I want it to go. I probably would never have figured out that wizards, the whole thing about them recovering from injury has a lot to do with them living a long time because they've got far groovier telomeres than any of us have. Their DNA copy are more expensive than ours does. I probably wouldn't have figured that out if somebody had pointed out, hey, I've been keeping track of the books and I'm a physical therapist and I just wanted to let you know that in the past 5 years, Dresden's aggregated about 7.5 years of therapy. And you really need to be aware that this injury would have required this kind of surgery and then this kind of recovery and then another surgery to correct that and still more therapy. And by time we get to that, he's already been busted up by the next book, which would have done this and this and that. I'm thinking, okay, so obviously, wizards are cooler than that, I said. I have to figure out how. Okay, that's why, that's a good reason. You know what, I'll find this in, that's why they live a long time too. Awesome. And this is working out great. As long as I can stay on my mental toes, I guess we'll be all right. Right here. Okay, have any of my characters surprised me or done something I wasn't expecting them to do or developed in the way I didn't want them to go? Those people work for me. Occasionally they are irascible, and I have to make sure to give them good motivations to do the things that I need them to do. And occasionally they just kind of come out cooler than I thought they would be. Butters was just going to be my kind of off-the-wall one-shot. I want an enemy with a sense of humor because I always like those characters. You know, I've seen Relic, I've seen Prophecy, and those characters are fun. Which, if you haven't seen those movies in a while, go back. Those enemies are hilarious. You know, after I wrote it, I'm like, okay, this guy is just so zany. I've got to use him again somewhere because I hadn't really planned him. I hadn't planned Butters out at all. I said, I need an enemy here. I need an enemy with a sense of humor. Okay, I built this guy together real quick. You know, in 20 minutes while I was watching the end of probably a Star Wars movie, and said, okay, let's go, and wrote it. But he came out so neat. I'm like, okay, I've got to use him again. I've got to find a good place to have this guy. And figured, you know, what better sidekick for a wizard going up against a gang of necromancers who animate the dead than a medical examiner whose job is to deal with them all the time. Yes, there would be absolutely no real help in any professional. I always like to plan things for Dresden out like that. Like, well, how can I give him a sidekick that'll be great company if thematically appropriate, yet not actually offer any true assistance? But that's just kind of how he rolls. In the back, in the black shirt, please. If I could pick any actor to play Harry and Thomas, who would I pick? Oh man, I'd probably pick mid-1970s Harrison Ford for Harry, because I'm happy to pick actors from other times who I can't possibly get. It's only a matter of time before technology makes that possible, before we can actually have a 1970s Carrie Fisher starring across from a 1955 John Mulaney. It'll happen one day. But if I had to pick somebody who's actually working now, I'd probably go with Captain Tight Pants for Harry, just because he's got a great acting for it, and he was fine in that role. As far as Thomas, that's a harder call. Thomas in my head is the older brother from Lost Boys. Jason, what's his name? Yeah, Jason Hadfield. He doesn't look that good anymore. I might also go with the guy who played Bryce in the first couple of seasons of Chuck. Was actually very close to Thomas in my head, except his hair was too short. But other than that, he was pretty close. And now everybody's going, huh? Who? Wow, I
Bryce Larkin.
Out obscure reference this room. Wow.
Bryce Larkin.
Is he in that? Is he in that now? Okay.
Matthew Balmer.
I'm a white-collar fan, although I know several people who are. So. Matt Balmer. Okay. Now we know. In the back.
Did Good Bob make it out, and is Bad Bob still around?
Okay, did Good Bob make it out? Is Bad Bob still around? Is spoilers for the end of this book, which a lot of people here haven't gotten to read yet. And if it wasn't totally inappropriate to go completely spoiler happy on this audience, I'm not going to tell you. That's my job as a professional storyteller. I give you some resolution on some things, and I leave other questions still hanging, and that way you buy the next book, and they will take my house away.